Good afternoon. I hope everyone's well today. Thank you for watching. It is appreciated as always. Keir and Wyver Cooper earlier this week decided to make a bit of a headline announcement, try to gain a bit of positive press. They said, if we look at this from Basil, Wyver Cooper says the Home Office is looking at military and industrial sites, including warehouses, to house asylum seekers as they are running out of UK homes. The UK government is putting illegal migrants before the homeless veterans, and it's disgusting. So there's a couple of things we need to unpack with that, which we'll get to in a minute or two. But that's the policy. They want to close the hotels and move them somewhere else. So they're not actually going to reduce the numbers. It's all about optics. People don't want them in HMOs. People don't want them in hotels. People don't want them in military bases. For example, Catterick Garrison. I don't know if you know about Catterick Garrison or not, but basically it's the largest military barracks, I believe, anywhere in the world for the British Armed Forces. And the entire town is built around that military complex. It's quite something when you go up there, actually, because you see all the military people, and they're not usually in civvies because it's a working camp. And you just see them mingling with regular people. And this is how the military bases are structured all over this United Kingdom. So even if you put them into, or put the illegals into a military base, it's going to be something like that, but on a smaller scale. They're going to be in a hugely integrated part of a town or a village, and people won't want them. You're not going to do anything about reducing the numbers this way. We all know what the answer is, and we'll get to that in a minute or two. I'm going to play this quick video from Talk TV, which was on earlier on today. You've got some leftist who is a policy advisor for one of the government quangos. So we're going to watch this video now. Okay, no surprises. The woman on the panel is an ethnic minority, so there's no surprises there. I'm going to listen to what she says because, as I say, these policy advisors decide what the actual government is going to do.
Joining us in the studio, we have with us, and are delighted that we're joined in the studio by Avni Majoria, who's a political commentator and, of course, Associate Director for Public Services at the Institute for Public Policy Research. Have I got that right, Avni?
You have, and thanks, Ian, for having me here.
It's a pleasure. Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, political commentator, a regular on the programme as well, sporting a massive Union Jack T-shirt, which obviously, due to current sensitivities, is being pixelated out on screen, so you won't be able to see any of that. All that flag-waving stuff. What's going on?
I won't take it off and spit it out. I promise I won't do that.
Welcome to you both. Let's start off, Avni, this new idea, which is not really a new idea, migrants in some kind of military base. You know that deja vu moment you get when you think, I haven't just heard this story once, I feel I've heard this story about 100 times before. Yeah. This goes back before Boris Johnson. I've heard it so many times. RAF Manston, all sorts of places, military bases. I think people just like the term military bases, as if that sounds like a more serious proposition. But in the absence of any current workable policy, is this going to be the government's option?
I think that it's as you say, these kind of things have been tried before, both in terms of headlines and in reality. Famously, in the past, there have been Tory ministers or MPs that have opposed them in their own constituency.
Most of the MPs in Parliament are NIMBYs, not in my backyard. They're happy to put them in the hotels. They're happy to do that because it's out of sight, out of mind. As soon as you try to integrate the vast majority of which are fighting-age military men, they don't want them in their constituencies. So they're happy to wax lyrical about, oh, we need to protect the migrants, kumbaya, let's all hold hands. They're happy to do that in Parliament. As soon as it's impacting on their bottom line in their constituency, they're suddenly very, very anti-migrants. It's curious. It's like the only thing they're concerned about is their votes, nothing else.
The big deal is the cost of our the cost of housing asylum seekers is too high, and we need to find routes to reduce that cost. And that can either be rehousing in reception centres, in military bases, but there's also a big issue around ensuring that we're getting those numbers down through a more efficient processing system.
This is what you need to remember. Now, Yvette Cooper, the former Home Secretary, used to say this all the time. Decisions are being delivered quicker. Because that sounds good, doesn't it? The vast majority of the migrants, the illegals, the dinghy divers, the boat people from France are waved through. The process for declining an asylum claim in this United Kingdom is twice as long and twice as difficult for the people processing these claims. They are incentivised to wave through the migrants and take it on good faith that the people of sound character. The people coming across have broken into our country. It is a criminal offence to arrive in the United Kingdom without the proper documentations. It's been the same since the 1970s.
Of the people that are here when they apply for asylum. So there's all sorts of issues wrapped up in this. There's the issues around headline grabbing, which isn't a solution to the problem. There are issues around how we house asylum seekers and the cost of that, and then what is the sensible conversation and the sensible solution to this problem that actually delivers results around those objectives.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to leave that one there. The sensible conversation would be to detain and deport. If you're breaking into the United Kingdom, you've told me everything I need to know about you. The first act you basically did when you broke into the country was break our laws. You've got no respect for our culture, you've got no respect for our laws. You're here because we are a soft touch, and for some reason we do not detain and deport you. That is the policy we need. Detain and deport. Once the message gets out that if you break into the United Kingdom, we will treat you for what you are, which is a criminal, and ship them off to a third country. Anybody coming over from France does not get to claim asylum. It's very, very well and good for the Home Secretary or the former Home Secretary to say, decisions are up. We've removed nearly 30k of people that had no right to be here. They don't tell you that they've been paid to leave. They don't tell you that these people aren't asylum seekers. They are largely overstayers on either university or study visas or employment visas, and they're paid to leave. So they're given a bung to leave the country, and there's nothing to stop them coming and doing the thing again and again and again every 2 or 3 months. Good work if you can get it. Nice way to make a living if you can get it. It does not solve the problem. That is the thing. This is what you need to be careful of. There's a lot of people running around saying, oh, the migrant crisis is over. No, it's not. It's shifting the problem elsewhere. The way you need to sort this is you need to pause the asylum processing that we have. We're full. Simple as. Nobody gets to claim asylum in this United Kingdom for at least 10 years, in my view. You don't need to leave the ECHR per se. A lot of politicians will say we need to leave the ECHR. Technically, we don't. We can disapply any ECHR rulings that we don't want to adhere to. So even reform saying we need to leave the ECHR, not strictly true. You can work around it. The British Parliament, the British Crown is sovereign, allegedly. As such, any decisions that contravene the sovereignty of either the Crown or Parliament can do one. That's the way you work around it. And then you get absolute nutters like our Defence Secretary on BBC this morning saying nonsense like this.
If we pulled out, that would mean we were the only nation in NATO not to be signed up to the convention, and it would put us in the club with Russia and Belarus.
He thinks that the only countries in NATO that aren't in the he thinks all NATO countries, shall I say, are in the ECHR. Not true. Canada and the United States, both in North America, are not in the ECHR. I wonder how they cope. Oh yeah, Trump does the detain and deport, doesn't he? Can't do that. Not in the United Kingdom. This is the thing. It's very, very simple. The simplest solution is usually The simplest solution is usually the correct solution. If you break into the United Kingdom, you do not get to stay. No freebies, you are shipped out. They go to a third country, not for processing, they just go to a third country. Russia or Belarus would suffice in my particular opinion. We don't have a returns agreement with their home country. Well, it's not our problem. They can get out the violence, they can maybe cry a little bit on TV, but they're not saying it's as simple as. There's some Labour MPs up in the north that are rightly absolutely terrified that they're losing the seat in the next Parliament, such as Jonathan Hinder of Pendle and Clitheroe. He was on GB News earlier on today with Gloria Di Piero. He's labouring under the same delusion, pun intended, that Labour is still the party of the working class. It never was. We're going to listen to him because he does sound genuine. However, he's deluded himself. So let's just look at this.
Can Labour still be the party of the working classes?
I desperately hope so, and that is what I'm fighting to ensure we are. The last thing I want is for our party to abandon the working class to Nigel Farage. And
You already have. The red wall is gone. It's not coming back. Get out the violence. You decided to throw your lot in with the Champagne Socialists and the human rights crowd. They're your core demographic, including the migrants. That's another core demographic for the Labour Party. And obviously the Champagne Socialists that's run the liberal media, that's your third demographic. That is who you cater to. Your Emily Maitlis types. Joe Coburn of Politics Live on BBC. These are your demographic. They're not people like me. They're not people in the north, and they're not people even remotely patriotic to the United Kingdom. These people are not representing you. The Labour Party is not representing your interests.
Because I think they will be an abject failure. But this has been decades in the making. It's not the fault of any one leader. It's not the fault of any one person at all. But our party has drifted a long way from the people we were formed to represent. And it is mostly on those cultural issues. You know, I always say to people, a lot of my constituents who say, I never vote Labour, when you speak to them about inequality or wanting an industrial strategy to actually make things into country again, paying workers properly, they're on board.
I'll give them props for that particular point. When the mines were shut down in the 80s and the 70s by both Labour and the Tories, the towns were hollowed out. Nothing was ever put in place to replace those industries. The people that were trained in those industries largely went on the dole because there was no other hope for them. Some of them went into call centre jobs and office jobs instead of doing the manual physical labour that they did previously. These jobs don't exist anymore either. The vast majority of low-paid scab work, shall we say, that was brought in to replace the manual industries, these jobs are going overseas, or they're bringing in migrant workers for these jobs because Labour have made it possible for employers to undercut native British people with wages and also with the national insurance rates that companies have to pay for their staff. The enhanced rate is only for the native British people. This isn't for the imported foreign workers. So the Labour Party does not represent the working people. They have sold out every core value that they were allegedly formed to represent and to make present in Parliament.
Economically left wing, but we've drifted so far away from them on some of the cultural issues that we've talked about. But they say, no, I can't vote Labour. So we've really got to course correct big time, and we haven't got a lot of time to do it. Because if you look at the election result this time, we got fewer votes in 2024 than we got in 2019. So we have only arrested the decline, and actually now, if we're not careful, the working class will leave us altogether. And that's where, people talking about losing votes to other parties, I mean, that's one thing, but what I don't want us to become is a rump in the metropolitan areas at the next general election. We have to be the party of the whole of Britain, and we have to be the party of the towns.
Never going to happen. It's already lost. My seat in Moncton and Hasby has proven that. Okay, my seat was one of the safest Labour seats in the United Kingdom. It's never going back to Labour. You've screwed the pooch. The champagne socialists are your demographic now. I do feel quite sorry for this guy because he seems to be one of the decent Labour MPs. There are one or two that do seem to have their head screwed on. Now, if you look at his particular seats, last time it was close between the Tories and Labour, with Reform in third place. That Reform got a larger share of the vote in that seat than they did in my particular seat. Alright? And they were in third place. I think, as I say, this particular seat, which is Pendle and Clitheroe, will go to Reform with the rest of the Red Wall. Labour are not serious. They are thinking they're going to grab a few headlines to maybe fool a few people. I'm here to set the record straight. All they're doing is skirting around the edges. The asylum process seems to be carved into some stone somewhere, like the tablets that were brought down from, I don't know, that, in the Bible, those tablets that were, and you can't deviate from them. They're like the Ten Commandments or something, or some nonsense like that. And it's like, no, it's complete bullshit. Any law, any convention that Britain's been signed up to, there's no longer in our interest. You leave that convention. If you was in a marriage and it wasn't working anymore, or you was in a job that you hated, you would find a new job. You would say, these conditions are not acceptable. I'm not saying in a failing relationship that's not working. It's as simple as, this is what the government wants to do. They want to pull the wool over your eyes and mislead and deceive. I'm here to say, we've had enough. Enough is enough. Leave the Refugee Convention, leave the ECHR, and let's control our borders. Now, if you think I'm onto something with this, make me aware. Do that good stuff. Comment, like, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video later on today. You take it easy, and thank you for watching as always.